4 years ago, she stood in my parents' dining room with her hand on her flat stomach and announced she was pregnant with my fiance's child. 3 weeks before my wedding, I remember the sound of my fork hitting the plate, a sharp metallic crack that cut through the room like a gunshot. I remember my mother whispering, "Calm down," as if I were the problem. I remember my father staring at the table, unable to meet my eyes. And I remember my sister's face, blank, not ashamed, not guilty, just satisfied. 6 months, she said. They had been sleeping together for 6 months. The venue was booked, the invitations sent. My dress was altered and hanging in my closet. And within 2 weeks, my parents had switched sides. She is young. She is scared. These things happen. These things happen. They used my venue for her wedding, my florist, my menu, my deposit, my life. I cut them off after that, blocked numbers, moved across the city, started over like I had been widowed instead of betrayed. For a while, I thought revenge would heal me. I exposed the truth years later in a moment of rage. It spread. It burned. It cost her. It cost her reputation, her marriage, her job. Watching it unfold felt powerful at first. Powerful and poisonous. I rebuilt my life anyway. Therapy twice a week. Promotions at work. A man named Owen who never once made me feel small. A son Noah, after 2 years of fertility treatments and prayers, whispered into bathroom mirrors. We moved to a quiet suburb when Noah turned 5. Tree-lined streets, bike helmets, lemonade stands. The kind of place where people believe in second chances. I believed I had earned mine. Until the first PTA meeting. The cafeteria was decorated with construction paper stars and glitter banners that said "Welcome Families." Folding chairs scraped across linoleum floors. Parents chatted about soccer practice and spelling tests. I sat in the third row, smoothing my blouse, trying to look like a woman who belonged here. Noah was starting kindergarten. I told myself I joined the PTA because I wanted to be present. Because I wanted to build something clean and wholesome and untouched by my past. The principal tapped the microphone. And now I would like to introduce our PTA President, Mrs. Emily Carter. The name hit me before the face did. Emily Carter. My sister stood up from the front row. She looked polished, slim, confident. Her hair fell in soft waves over her shoulders. She wore a navy blazer and a bright smile that I knew too well. The room applauded. My lungs forgot how to function. She stepped onto the stage like she owned it, like she had always owned it. "Welcome, everyone," she said into the microphone. "I am so excited about the incredible year we are going to have." Her voice was warm, inviting, controlled. If you did not know her, you would trust her instantly. I stared at her profile as she spoke about community and transparency and doing what is best for the children. Transparency. The word made my throat tighten. Owen's hand found my knee. He had followed my gaze and gone still. "You okay?" he whispered. "No," I said honestly. Emily's eyes scanned the room as she talked. They stopped on me. For 1 second, the smile faltered. Not dramatically, just a flicker. Recognition, sliding in like a blade. Then she recovered. "And we are especially thrilled to welcome new families this year," she continued smoothly. "If you are new, please stand so we can recognize you." I should have stayed seated. Instead, I stood because I have never been good at hiding. A few other parents rose with me. Polite applause. Friendly nods. Emily's gaze locked onto mine again. She smiled wider. "Welcome," she said. "We are so glad you are here." The room heard hospitality. I heard a challenge. After the meeting ended, parents lined up to introduce themselves. Compliments. Questions about fundraising. Volunteer sign-up sheets. I tried to leave quietly. Lindsay. Her voice was right behind me. I turned up close. I could see the faint lines at the corners of her eyes. The exhaustion beneath the makeup. Life had not been gentle with her. But she still carried herself like a queen in borrowed armor. "You look good," she said. "So do you." She tilted her head slightly. "Therapy suits you." The comment was soft, almost playful. It landed like a slap. Owen stepped closer to my side. "We are here for our son," I said evenly. Nothing else. Of course. Her smile did not reach her eyes. We all have to move on eventually, right? Move on. I thought about the dining room, the wedding dress, the 4 years of silence. Congratulations on the presidency, I said. She leaned in just slightly, close enough that no one else could hear. It is nice to finally be the one people choose, she murmured. There it was. Not apology, not regret, triumph. I felt the old anger rise like heat under my skin, familiar, tempting. But this was not my war anymore. I had a son holding my hand. We will see you around, I said. Owen guided me toward the exit before I could say anything sharper. Outside, the air was cool and clean. Children ran across the playground behind the school. Noah laughed as he chased a boy in a red jacket. I watched him. I told myself this was just coincidence, just proximity, a small town, overlapping lives. I could ignore her. I had done it before. That night, after Noah fell asleep, I opened the PTA website. President, Emily Carter. Treasurer, vacant. Annual Fall Carnival fundraiser goal, $75,000. Projected budget, pending. My cursor hovered over the volunteer tab. Owen stood behind me. You are thinking about it, he said. I am thinking about protecting my kid. From what? I stared at the screen. From her. He was quiet for a moment. Lindsay, he said gently, do not let this become about her again. I closed the laptop. It is not, I said. But even as I spoke, I knew something dangerous had shifted inside me. Not obsession, not yet, but awareness. She had built a throne in a room full of children, and I had just taken a seat in the audience. If you were me, would you have walked away? Or would you have stayed and watched very, very carefully? That was the clean version. The version I could say out loud without tasting bitterness. The truth was messier. The following week, I filled out the volunteer form. I checked the box for budget committee. I did not hesitate. If Emily wanted transparency, I would give her transparency. The first committee meeting was held in the school library after dismissal. Folding tables, dry erase board, a tray of store-bought cookies nobody touched. Emily sat at the head of the table. Of course she did. She wore a cream sweater and subtle gold earrings, the kind of effortless polish that made other mothers feel underdressed. Her tone was warm, encouraging, inclusive. We raised $85,000 at the fall carnival, she announced. That is a record for this school. Applause. Parents smiled at each other like they had personally saved education. I kept my expression neutral. $85,000. Those funds will go toward new playground equipment, art programs, and technology upgrades, she continued. We are finalizing vendor payments this week. I raised my hand. She saw it, paused, smiled. Yes, Lindsay? The sound of my name in her mouth made my spine tighten. Do we have a detailed breakdown of vendor contracts and payments? I asked calmly. For committee review? A few parents glanced at me. Not hostile. Just curious. Emily folded her hands. Of course, she said. Everything is documented. Great, I replied. Can we circulate copies? A small silence. Then she nodded. Absolutely. Transparency is important. There it was again. Transparency. She handed out stapled packets. I scanned them quickly. Inflatables rental, $18,500. Food vendors, $22,000. Security, $6,800. Entertainment company, $24,000. Entertainment company, Bright Star Events LLC. I underlined it lightly with my pen. Something in my chest prickled. Any questions? She asked brightly. Who owns Bright Star? I asked. She did not blink. It is a local vendor, she said. Highly recommended. Do we have their insurance certificate on file? I asked. A pause. Her smile thinned, just slightly. Yes, she said. Can we see it? The room shifted. A chair creaked. Another mother laughed lightly. Wow, someone means business. I smiled politely. I work in compliance, I said. It is habit. That part was true. Emily cleared her throat. I can forward that, she said. No problem. I wrote a note in the margin. Forward insurance. When the meeting ended, she approached me by the exit. You always did love paperwork, she said quietly. And you always did hate it. Her jaw tightened. Be careful, she murmured. You are going to make people uncomfortable. I am comfortable with that. Her eyes flicked to my wedding ring. You always did need to win. The accusation hit harder than it should have. I do not need to win, I said evenly. I need the numbers to add up. That night, after Noah fell asleep, I opened my laptop. Bright Star Events LLC, registered 6 months ago. Owner, Daniel Morris, my sister's new boyfriend. I leaned back slowly. The website was generic. Stock images. No portfolio older than this year. I pulled up state filings. Insurance certificate. Expired 3 weeks before the carnival. My stomach dropped. If a child had been injured, the school would have been liable. The PTA, the parents, $85,000 raised for children, 40% paid to a company owned by her boyfriend. No competitive bids documented. No conflict of interest disclosure. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You digging again? I stared at the message. Then another, you cannot help yourself. I did not respond. A third message. Still obsessed with me? I exhaled slowly. No, I am obsessed with patterns. The following week, I requested access to full bank statements. Bylaws allowed any committee member to review financial records with 48 hours notice. Emily replied with a single line. Of course. Transparency. When I arrived at the school office, the folder was waiting. I sat alone at a small table and flipped through transaction logs. There it was. 3 transfers totaling $34,200 to Bright Star Events, 2 days after the carnival. Another smaller transfer labeled Logistics Adjustment, $6,750, rounded numbers, clean, too clean, no reimbursement documentation, no invoices attached to that last transfer. I photographed everything, legally, within my rights. As I packed up the folder, I felt something rising in my chest. Not rage. Not exactly. A clarity so sharp it almost felt holy. She had rebuilt her life on a stage of moral superiority. Single mother, community leader, survivor. And underneath it, she was siphoning money from children's fundraising events into her boyfriend's shell company. It was not about me. It had nothing to do with our past. This was who she was. That realization hurt more than the betrayal ever had. The General Assembly was scheduled for the following Thursday. 200 parents expected. Budget approval vote. I could have reported her privately. I could have gone to the principal quietly. I considered it. I really did. Owen found me at the dining table, surrounded by printed documents. You look like you are preparing for trial, he said. In a way, I am. He sat across from me. Is this about protecting Noah? He asked. Yes. And I did not answer. He leaned forward. You need to be honest with yourself. Are you doing this because it is, right? Or because it is her? I swallowed. It is both. He studied my face for a long moment. Then make sure the right part is louder. The night of the assembly, the cafeteria was packed. Parents fanned themselves with printed agendas. Children ran between chairs. Teachers stood along the walls. Emily took the stage again, confident, radiant. Tonight we will vote to approve this year's budget, she said. Thank you all for your trust. Trust. When she finished her presentation, she asked, any questions before we vote? Silence. I could feel my pulse in my fingertips. Owen squeezed my hand. I stood. I have questions, I said. 200 heads turned. Emily's face went perfectly still. Of course you do, she said softly. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. Part of me had been waiting for this. Not for justice. For the collision, the projector hummed behind her. The screen glowed white. I walked toward the aisle, folder in hand. If we are voting on a budget tonight, I said clearly, we deserve full disclosure. The room quieted. I felt every eye on me, every breath. Every heartbeat. This was no longer about sisters. This was about evidence, and I had all of it. Would you have stopped there? Or would you have turned the lights on and shown everyone exactly what you found? I walked toward the front with my folder pressed flat against my ribs, as if I needed to keep my heart from climbing out. Emily stood beside the projector screen, composed, perfect, untouchable. Lindsay, she said lightly, microphone still in her hand. If this is about personal matters, we can schedule a separate. It is not personal, I said. That part was true. It had started personal. It was not anymore. It is about $85,000 raised for children, I continued. And where it went. The air shifted. Parents leaned forward. The principal, Mrs. Hanley, straightened near the wall. Emily's smile sharpened. All expenditures are documented in the packet, she said. Yes, I replied. They are. I reached for the projector cable. May I? A long pause. 200 witnesses. She nodded. Transparency, she said again. I connected my laptop. The first slide appeared. Bright Star Events LLC. Registered. 6 months ago. Owner, Daniel Morris. A low murmur rippled through the room. I did not look at her. Daniel Morris, I said evenly, is the boyfriend of our PTA president. Silence. Then whispers. Emily's voice cut in, calm but tight. That is not illegal. No, I agreed. It is not illegal, if disclosed. Next slide. PTA Bylaw, Section 4.2, Conflict of Interest Disclosure Required. I read it aloud, every word, slowly. The president must disclose any financial relationship between board members and contracted vendors prior to approval. I turned toward her. Was this disclosed? Her jaw flexed. We needed a reliable vendor, she said. He provided a competitive rate. Competitive? I clicked again. 3 bids. 2 identical font styles. 2 identical phrasing errors. Identical metadata timestamps. Created within 4 minutes of each other. A father in the 3rd row stood up. You are saying those bids are fake? I am saying, I replied calmly, that they were generated from the same computer. Gasps. Emily stepped forward. This is harassment, she said sharply. You have always had a vendetta. This has nothing to do with our past, I said firmly. If anyone else had done this, I would still be standing here. I pulled up the bank transfer records. 3 transfers, totaling $34,200, then the additional $6,750. Can you explain this logistics adjustment? I asked. She did not answer. Instead, she lifted the microphone. This is a personal attack by someone with unresolved family issues. The room stirred. I felt it, the narrative tilting, that old story trying to crawl back into the light. I inhaled slowly. Fine, I said. I clicked again. Insurance certificate. Expiration date, 3 weeks before the carnival. The date glowed on the screen. If a child had been injured, I said quietly, the school would have been liable. Parents would have been liable because the vendor did not have active insurance. The murmurs turned sharp. Mrs. Hanley stepped forward. Is that accurate? She demanded. Emily's composure cracked for the first time. It lapsed temporarily, she said. It was reinstated? After the event, I replied. A mother in the front row stood. My daughter broke her wrist on one of those inflatables. The room exploded. Voices overlapped. Questions shouted. Emily raised the microphone again, but the crowd had turned. Answer her? Someone yelled. Did you profit from this? Another parent demanded. Her eyes darted around the room, looking for allies. Finding none, I did not steal money, she snapped. Then explain the markup, I said, my voice steady. Explain why 40% of our fundraiser went to a company created 6 months ago by your boyfriend. Explain why there was no disclosure. She stared at me. For a moment, I saw it. Not arrogance, not cruelty, fear, real, human fear. And for half a second, something inside me softened. Then I remembered the dining room, the wedding venue, her whisper. It is nice to finally be the one people choose. The softness hardened. This is not about revenge, I said clearly to the room. This is about accountability. The principal turned to the PTA vice president. We need an emergency vote, she said. Voices shouted. Agreement. Emily looked at me like I had pulled the floor out from under her. This is because you cannot let go, she hissed under her breath. No, I replied quietly. This is because you never changed. The vice president called for order. All in favor of immediate removal pending investigation? Hands shot up, almost all of them. I counted without meaning to. 167. All opposed? 12. Motion carried. The sound of it felt physical, like a door slamming. Emily stood frozen as the microphone was gently taken from her hand. Her crown fell without drama, just gravity. Parents avoided her eyes as they gathered their things. Some whispered. Some stared openly. Justice. Clean. Public. Undeniable. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt hollow. Owen found me near the back wall. You did it, he said quietly. I did. Across the room, Emily's oldest son stood near the snack table, 10 years old now, old enough to understand. He looked from his mother to the murmuring adults, confusion shifting into humiliation. He caught my eye, and I saw the question there. What did she do? What did you do? Emily walked toward the exit alone. No one stopped her. No one defended her. Not this time. The cafeteria slowly emptied. Victory tasted metallic. Sharp, necessary, but not sweet. As we stepped outside into the cool evening air, Owen squeezed my hand. Was it worth it? He asked. I watched parents huddle in the parking lot, already dissecting what had happened. I watched a little boy climb into the backseat of a car, shoulders slumped. I do not know, I said honestly, because justice had been served, but something inside me had shifted again. Not obsession, not revenge. Something quieter, the realization that exposing the truth does not stop the collateral damage, and that sometimes the hardest part of winning is living with what your victory costs. If you had the evidence, would you have stayed silent? Or would you have burned the stage down anyway? It did not matter what I had proven. It did not matter what the bylaws said. It did not matter that the insurance had lapsed, that the bids were suspicious, that money meant for children had flowed into a boyfriend's brand new LLC. All that mattered was that something ugly had happened in a school cafeteria in front of 200 parents, and everyone needed a villain they could understand. Some people chose Emily. Some people chose me. The rest chose entertainment. I dropped Noah off at kindergarten and felt the difference in the air before I even reached the front doors. The secretary usually smiled and asked about my day. This time, she kept her eyes on her computer screen and said, "Good morning," like the words were a formality she did not want to invest in. A cluster of moms stood near the hallway that led to the classrooms. They had matching Stanley cups and the kind of expressions people wear when they think they are being subtle. When I walked past, their conversation did not stop. It just changed temperature. The paperwork lady. So aggressive. Who does that in front of kids? I kept my posture straight. I did not turn my head. I had learned years ago that if you look like you are bleeding, people will crowd closer to see how deep the cut is. On the way back to my car, my phone buzzed. A private Facebook group message request. A screenshot of my slides. Someone had recorded everything. Of course they had. I did not open it. I did not need to. Owen called me from his office 10 minutes later. Mrs. Hanley emailed all parents, he said. The district is launching an investigation. They are freezing PTA funds. Good, I said. My voice sounded firm. My stomach did not. Emily is already posting, he continued. She is saying you targeted her, that you have a personal history, that you are unstable. I gripped the steering wheel until my fingers went numb. She is building her story, Owen said. Do not let her. I am not engaging, I replied. Lindsay, what? I snapped, then immediately regretted it. I am sorry. I am tired. I know, he said softly, but she is not going to take the loss quietly. She never has. He was right. Emily did not know how to lose. She only knew how to reframe. By that afternoon, a mom I barely knew knocked on my front door. Her name was Trish. I had seen her at pickup, always smiling too hard. She clasped her hands like she was praying. I just wanted to say, she began, I support you. Relief flickered in my chest before I could stop it. Then she tilted her head. But did you have to do it like that? There it was. The second blade. I did not plan to make a scene, I said carefully. I asked for disclosure privately. I requested records. I followed bylaws. Trish nodded, eyes big and sympathetic. I know. It is just Emily has kids, and she has been through so much. I stared at her. Been through so much. As if hardship made someone incapable of wrongdoing, as do many people, I said evenly. That does not give you permission to siphon money from children. Trish flinched. I am not saying she did, she said quickly. I am just saying it is complicated. Complicated. I almost laughed. It was always complicated when the golden child got caught. When I got hurt, it was simple. Move on. Be the bigger person. Do not ruin the family. Do not ruin the community. Trish glanced past me into my living room, where Noah's toys were scattered like colorful landmines. Anyway, she said, voice dropping, there is a meeting next week. School board. They might want you there. Why? She hesitated. Emily is saying the documents were forged, she whispered. She is saying you hacked accounts. My blood went cold. That is ridiculous, I said. Trish nodded quickly. I know, but people will believe anything if it makes them feel better. She walked away before I could respond. I shut the door and leaned against it, breathing too fast. Owen came home early and found me standing there like I had forgotten how to move. She is escalating, he said. She is desperate, I replied. He looked at me for a long moment. And how does that make you feel? I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. Because the truth was uncomfortable. It felt good. Not in a bright, joyful way. In a dark, quiet way. Like a thirst being satisfied. I hated that. I hated that I could still feel pleasure at the sound of her scrambling. The school board hearing was held in a district conference room the following Wednesday. Fluorescent lights. Rows of chairs. A long table where the board sat like judges. Emily arrived 10 minutes late, on purpose. She wanted the entrance. She wore a black dress and a pearl necklace. She looked like she was attending a funeral, which was fitting. Her boyfriend, Daniel, sat beside her. He kept his eyes down, jaw tight, like he had been dragged into a storm he did not understand. Emily's oldest son was there too, sitting behind her with his arms crossed. He looked older than 10 in that room. Too old. I sat with Owen on the opposite side, my folder in my lap. Mrs. Hanley opened the meeting with a stiff statement about financial integrity and community trust. Then she invited Emily to speak. Emily stood slowly and looked around the room as if she were absorbing everyone's sympathy. My children have been harassed, she said, voice trembling on cue. My family has been threatened. Because someone decided to weaponize a PTA meeting for personal revenge, her gaze landed on me. I did not look away. This woman, Emily continued, has a long history of instability. She has unresolved trauma. She has targeted me before. The board members shifted uncomfortably. I felt Owen's hand slide over mine. Emily wiped at her eye. I did not steal money, she said. Daniel's company provided services. The payments were approved. The insurance issue was a clerical error, and the so-called evidence presented was manipulated. She turned to the board. I am requesting that the district investigate not just the PTA finances, but the individual who attacked me. I believe she accessed private information unlawfully. A murmur rippled through the audience. My throat tightened, not because I was afraid of the truth, because I knew how narratives worked. The more outrageous the accusation, the more attention it got. Mrs. Hanley turned to me. Mrs. Hayes, she said. Do you wish to respond? I stood. My legs felt steady. My heartbeat did not. Yes, I said. I walked to the front and placed my folder on the table. I followed PTA bylaws, I said clearly. I requested records through official channels. The transfers I presented are pulled directly from PTA bank statements provided by the school office. Emily opened her mouth to interrupt. I kept going. I did not hack anything. I did not forge anything, and if Emily Carter would like to claim I manipulated evidence, she can do so under oath. Emily's eyes flashed. I clicked my pen, then I looked at the board. I also want to state something plainly, I said. This is not revenge. If this had been any other PTA president, I would have asked the same questions. Because this is not about personalities. It is about money raised for children and the duty to protect it. A board member, Mr. Delgado, leaned forward. Do you have proof of conflict of interest? He asked. Yes, I said, and slid forward the LLC filing, then the insurance certificate, then the bid documents metadata printouts, then the emails with Emily's approval signature. I watched Mr. Delgado's eyebrows rise as he read. Emily's composure started to crack again. Those emails were taken out of context, she snapped. You mean the context where you signed them, I replied. A few people in the audience exhaled sharply. Emily's oldest son sank lower in his chair. I saw it, the moment his stomach understood before his brain did. His mother was lying in public. Again, Mrs. Hanley spoke. Emily, she said carefully, the district will be conducting a full forensic audit. Until then, you are barred from PTA involvement. Emily stood so fast her chair scraped. This is unbelievable, she hissed. You are letting a bitter woman destroy me. I looked at her, the pearl necklace, the trembling chin, the performance, and under it, the same entitlement I had seen in my parents' dining room, the same certainty that she could walk through destruction and still be considered innocent. You destroyed yourself, I said quietly. Her eyes widened. For a split second, she looked like she might lunge across the room. Daniel grabbed her wrist. Emily, he whispered. She yanked away. Then she did something I did not expect. She turned to the audience, to the parents, to the board, and let her voice go loud. She is doing this because I took her fiancé, she shouted. The room froze. Every head snapped toward me. The truth hit the air like a dropped glass. Owen's hand tightened around mine. Emily's eyes burned. Yes, she continued, voice shaking with rage now. Not performance. Years ago. And she never got over it. This is what she does. She ruins lives. My vision narrowed. My ears rang. For a moment, I was 28 again, standing in my parents' dining room with my throat torn open. Then I felt Owen's presence beside me, solid, grounding, and I realized something. She had just confessed, not to the affair, not to the betrayal, but to motive, to the history. She had brought it into this room because she thought it would stain me. Instead, it stained her. Mr. Delgado's face hardened. Mrs. Carter, he said slowly, you just admitted there is a personal conflict, and you did not disclose it when you ran for PTA president. Emily's mouth opened. No sound came out. Mrs. Hanley's voice went icy. This meeting is adjourned, she said. Emily, you need to leave. Emily stared at me one last time, not triumphant, not smug, just furious and cornered. And then she walked out. Her son followed behind her with his head down, shoulders tight, moving like a child carrying an adult's shame. I watched him go, and the hollow feeling returned, because that child did not choose this. He did not ask to be the son of a woman who stole and lied and performed. He did not ask to learn it under fluorescent lights in a room full of strangers. Owen touched my elbow. Come on, he said gently. As we walked to the car, my phone buzzed again. A new message request. This one from an account with no profile picture. You happy now? I stared at the words. I should have felt satisfied. I should have felt victorious. Instead, my hands started to shake because I was not sure what I had unleashed. And somewhere deep inside me, a quieter fear began to grow. Not fear of Emily, fear of myself. If justice felt this much like hunger, what would it take to make me feel full? Asterisk, asterisk, if you were in my place, would you call it justice? Or would you admit it felt like revenge? Asterisk, asterisk,